Chapter 1. A New Beginning. I was born in Scotland in 1645. My father was Dutch, and my mother was Scottish. I had 2 sisters and 1 brother. We were a close-knit family. My father was a successful merchant, and we lived comfortably. I received an excellent education and enjoyed a privileged life. But there was something missing. I had a dream. I wanted to explore the world by sea. I longed to see distant lands and experience adventures beyond imagination. My father was a kind man who only wanted the best for me, but my dream wasn't aligned with his vision. He didn't approve of my desire to sail. The tension between us made things difficult. When I turned 19, my father summoned me to his study. He wanted to have a serious conversation. As I entered the room, he began asking questions. He wanted to understand why I felt so drawn to the sea. He explained that sailing was perilous, uncomfortable, and even life-threatening. His voice cracked as he spoke, and tears welled up in his eyes. I considered his words carefully. Sailing was indeed risky, uncomfortable, and potentially fatal. But it was also exhilarating. It offered the chance to discover new places, meet fascinating people, and live a life full of excitement. Every day, I thought about nothing else but sailing. Staying at home became unbearable. I tried talking to my mother, hoping she might support me. "Mother," I said earnestly, "I yearn to travel by sea more than anything. Please help me convince Father." She loved me deeply, but like Father, she believed sailing was too dangerous. She thought staying in Scotland was the safest choice for me. Life here, she insisted, was ideal. 1 year later, I found myself in Aberdeen, a bustling port town on the northeastern coast of Scotland. It was September 10th, the year 1664. There, I encountered an old acquaintance whose family owned a ship. They frequently sailed to Edinburgh. Their next voyage was scheduled soon, and my friend urged me to join them. "Come with us," he exclaimed. Though unprepared, I saw this as an opportunity to test whether sailing was truly for me. So, I agreed. The initial excitement was overwhelming. It felt incredible to set foot on the deck for the first time. However, within hours, our journey took a turn for the worse. A fierce storm approached rapidly. The winds howled louder and stronger with each passing moment, and the waves grew taller and more menacing. The ship rocked violently, tossing us from side to side. Fear gripped me tightly. All I could think about was my warm bed back home, safe and cozy. By morning, the storm subsided, leaving behind calm skies and serene waters. The day stretched peacefully into a beautiful evening. One of the crew members approached me, smiling warmly. We exchanged pleasantries, and he shared some humorous stories. When I mentioned my fear during the storm, he laughed heartily. "What storm?" he teased. "That was just a gentle breeze." He handed me a drink, which I eagerly accepted. Before long, I was thoroughly relaxed and fell asleep soundly. The following day, memories of home faded, replaced by dreams of future voyages. Over the next 3 days, the wind remained unfavorable, slowing our progress considerably. Then, the wind shifted, becoming stronger, propelling us forward swiftly. On the 4th day, another storm hit, this one far more intense than the last. Panic spread among the crew, and for the first time, I realized how real the dangers of the sea truly were. Chapter 2: The Wrath of the Sea. I was paralyzed with fear, unable to do anything but lie in my bunk. Peering out the small window, I saw waves that towered like colossal mountains. Other ships on the horizon looked like mere toys, tossed around mercilessly by the relentless sea. All I could think about was returning home, back to the safety and warmth of familiar shores. This storm was unlike anything I had ever experienced. Its fury seemed endless. Everyone aboard turned to God for salvation, praying fervently for deliverance. Then, someone shouted in alarm. They had spotted a gaping hole in the side of our ship. Water poured in at an alarming rate, filling the vessel faster than we could comprehend. It was a dire situation. Several men rushed below deck, frantically pumping water out as fast as they could. I stood frozen, rooted to the spot by sheer terror, until one sailor grabbed me by the arm. "Get down there and help," he barked. With trembling legs, I joined the others, working tirelessly to keep our ship afloat. Suddenly, a gunshot echoed through the air, a signal from our captain indicating the severity of our predicament. My heart sank. It felt as though all hope was lost. Our ship was badly damaged, and I believed this would be our final day. Despite our best efforts, the water continued to rise inexorably. The weather improved slightly, but our ship was already overwhelmed. Desperation set in. We needed assistance desperately. In the distance, another ship appeared. They sent a small rowboat braving the turbulent waters to rescue us. The crew members risked their lives to reach us, pulling us onto the fragile vessel. There was no turning back now. Their ship was too far away. Within 15 minutes, our once mighty ship slipped beneath the waves, disappearing into the abyss. Though safe on the smaller boat, I remained shaken, haunted by what we had endured. As we drew closer to land, we spotted villagers gathered on the beach, ready to assist us. Their kindness was overwhelming. They welcomed us warmly, offering food, shelter, and even money so we could make our way to either Edinburgh or Glasgow. I chose Edinburgh, traveling overland to reach the city. While in Edinburgh, I met a seasoned captain named Thomas. He was affable and generous, inviting me to join him on his next voyage to the West Indies. Intrigued by the prospect of earning a living through trade, I agreed. Captain Thomas explained the intricacies of commerce in the region, detailing what goods were in demand. In England, I purchased items that were both affordable locally and highly sought after in the West Indies. These products, though inexpensive here, commanded high prices abroad due to their scarcity. Our journey to the West Indies proved profitable. Upon returning to England with a tidy sum, I felt invigorated. The thrill of adventure and the promise of financial gain fueled my desire to continue exploring and expanding my knowledge. Captain Thomas took it upon himself to teach me the basics of navigation and seamanship. Eager to learn more, I decided to embark on another expedition to the West Indies. At first, the journey unfolded smoothly. However, trouble soon arose when a suspicious ship began shadowing us. By midday, it became clear it was a pirate vessel. As the afternoon wore on, the pirates closed in, intent on capturing us. Their initial assault was thwarted, but during their second attempt, they succeeded in boarding our ship. Chaos erupted as they ransacked everything in sight. Some of our crew were killed, others grievously injured. Outnumbered and outmatched, we surrendered, becoming prisoners of the ruthless pirates. Chapter 3: A Stolen Heart. I was young and resilient, but my fate had taken a dark turn. I became a servant to the captain of the pirate ship. Life as a captive was grueling. Slaves endured relentless hardship, working long hours under harsh conditions. My days were spent laboring tirelessly, whether tending to the house or maintaining the garden. The captain dictated every task, leaving me with little freedom. I detested the work, yearning for liberation and a chance to reclaim my life. One fateful day, I encountered a young woman within the confines of the household. She radiated beauty, though her circumstances mirrored mine. She too was enslaved, tasked with cleaning the grand estate. Despite our language barrier, something ineffable connected us. Her presence stirred emotions deep within me. She would occasionally smile at me, her warmth briefly illuminating the dreary existence we shared. Sometimes, when she drew near, her touch lingered ever so slightly, a fleeting brush against my hand or shoulder, but these moments were perilous. If the captain discovered such interactions, he might punish her severely, perhaps even sending her away forever. Thoughts of her consumed me. Each day, I longed to see her, yet her appearances in the house were unpredictable. When she was present, my heart swelled with joy. When absent, an ache settled in its place. In those quiet instants, gazing upon her delicate features, I believed I loved her. Though unspoken, I imagined us as kindred spirits bound by circumstance. Yet, our bond remained clandestine and fraught with complications. Slaves were forbidden from forming romantic attachments. It was a sorrowful reality that weighed heavily on my soul. Occasionally, the captain allowed me to accompany him on fishing excursions. Alongside a young boy, we ventured out into the vast ocean using a small boat. On one occasion, dense fog enveloped us, obscuring all sight. Lost at sea, we struggled through the night, desperate to find land. By morning, we finally reached shore, exhausted but relieved. Upon returning home, the captain insisted we upgrade to a larger vessel, better suited for extended journeys. One day, the captain issued new orders. Stock the boat with additional provisions, including food, drink, and weapons. He anticipated guests who wished to partake in both fishing and hunting. However, the expected visitors never arrived. Instead, the captain instructed me to prepare the boat for an early morning fishing trip. This presented an unexpected opportunity, a chance to escape. The plan crystallized in my mind. Under the guise of routine preparation, I ensured the boat remained fully equipped with supplies and firearms. Once ready, I intended to slip away unnoticed during the following dawn. But thoughts of the young woman haunted me. How could I leave without her? My heart ached at the impossibility of bringing her along. The logistics were insurmountable, and despair crept in. Freedom beckoned, yet my heart yearned for her companionship. As morning broke, hope flickered anew. Perhaps today, I would catch a glimpse of her. To my immense relief, she appeared in the house, radiant as ever. Our eyes locked, and in that silent exchange, I sensed she perceived the gravity of the moment. It was as if she understood this encounter marked our final farewell. Her gaze bore into mine, filled with understanding and sorrow. She reached out, her fingers grazing my hand, and though her expression remained somber, she offered a faint smile before retreating. That hour passed agonizingly slow. Finally, everything was prepared. The boy and I boarded the boat, accompanied by one of the captain's friends, who assumed authority for the day. As we pushed off from the shore, I carried with me the memory of her touch, her knowing glance, and the bittersweet ache of love left behind. Chapter 4: The Beast on the Shore. Soon, we ventured far from land. I feigned incompetence in fishing, ensuring our distance from shore increased. At one point, our boss moved to the front of the boat, giving me the perfect opportunity. With swift precision, I pushed him into the sea. He flailed, attempting to swim back, but when he caught sight of the gun I raised, he changed course and swam away. Turning to the boy, I gauged his loyalty. Seeing no resistance in his eyes, I knew he was with me. After 2 long years, freedom was finally within reach. We sailed as fast as the favorable winds would carry us, putting miles between us and pirate territory. Even so, fear lingered. For 5 days, I refused to stop the boat, terrified of being recaptured. On the 6th day, a semblance of safety returned, and we navigated toward land, seeking refuge near a small river. Unsure of our location, we needed fresh water desperately. Under cover of darkness, we attempted to travel upstream where the water wasn't tainted by salt. However, eerie noises halted our progress. The boy, trembling with fear, begged to retreat, but curiosity and necessity kept us anchored near the river's edge. Sleep eluded us as strange creatures emerged to bathe in the water, their haunting cries echoing through the night. One beast approached our boat, its intentions unclear. When the boy pleaded for us to flee, I stood firm, raising my weapon. A single shot sent the creature fleeing ashore, while the others scattered at the sound of gunfire. Exhausted but relieved, we remained aboard until dawn. In the morning, we broke our fast with bread before venturing onto the beach. The boy suggested exploring inland, but cautious by nature, I chose to stay close to the boat, unwilling to lose sight of it. Equipped with 2 large water bottles, we collected fresh water from the river. Encouraged by the boy's enthusiasm, I allowed him to venture further. He returned triumphantly, clutching an animal resembling a chicken. Both of us rejoiced at the prospect of fresh meat, which bolstered our spirits despite the uncertainty of our surroundings. Though uncertain of our exact location, I believed we were navigating along the coast of Africa, hoping to encounter an English ship that might rescue us. We assumed this land was uninhabited, as no signs of human presence appeared. Only the ominous sounds of wild animals punctuated the silence. One fateful morning, while fetching water, disaster struck. A massive lion appeared on the beach, mere 20 meters away. Panic gripped the boy as the predator charged toward us. Without hesitation, I fired my 3 guns in rapid succession. The first bullet grazed its leg. The second struck its head, incapacitating it. The final shot ended its life. Though the meat proved inedible, I decided to preserve the lion's skin as a trophy. Carefully placing it atop the boat, we watched as the sun dried it under the relentless heat. Chapter 5: A Turning Tide. For the next 10 days, we continued our journey along the coast, stopping only when fresh water was needed. Soon, it became evident that people inhabited the land. One day, we spotted a large group of villagers on the shore, many accompanied by children. They watched us curiously from afar. I wanted to approach them, but the boy hesitated, fear etched across his face. The villagers signaled their goodwill by offering food. 2 men disappeared briefly into the forest and returned with dried meat, holding it high for us to see. Unsure of how to retrieve the food without disembarking, we observed as the villagers placed it carefully on the ground before retreating to a safe distance. Once they were far enough away, we cautiously retrieved the provisions. This gesture eased our apprehension, and we decided to meet them. Grateful for their kindness, we thanked them, though we had nothing tangible to offer in return. At that moment, 2 wild animals emerged from the forest, charging toward the crowd. Panic rippled through the villages as one beast lunged at a young girl. Without hesitation, I fired my gun, striking the first animal and killing it instantly. The second creature fled in terror. The villagers were astonished, not only by the sound of gunfire but also by the sudden death of the predator. Their relief turned to gratitude as they realized the girl was unharmed. To express their thanks, they brought us even more food and water, replenishing our supplies. With ample provisions aboard, we sailed non-stop for another 10 days, passing several islands. On one such day, the boy shouted excitedly, or rather, anxiously, as he spotted a distant ship on the horizon. His initial fear subsided when we identified it as Portuguese rather than pirate. Hoping to attract their attention, I fired a warning shot into the air. The crew noticed us immediately and invited us aboard. Fortunately, a Scottish sailor served among the Portuguese crew, allowing us to communicate freely. After sharing our story, the sailors welcomed us warmly, agreeing to transport us further. In gratitude, we offered our belongings to the captain, but he graciously declined, instead proposing to purchase our small boat at a fair price. He paid generously, taking half the usual cost and leaving the remainder as a gift. Additionally, the captain expressed interest in training the boy as a sailor. Though I appreciated the opportunity, I worried about entrusting him to such a life so soon after gaining freedom. Chapter 6: A New Beginning. Despite my reservations, the boy eagerly embraced the chance to work under the captain, beginning his training as a sailor. Our paths diverged as the ship set sail for Brazil. 22 days later, I bid farewell to the boy and the crew, stepping ashore in this vibrant new world. Brazil, a burgeoning state in South America, offered countless opportunities for those seeking a fresh start, and so it did for me. I quickly befriended local plantation owners who introduced me to the art of sugar production. With the funds earned from selling our boat, I purchased a modest plot of land and began cultivating sugar cane. Though progress was slow initially, my efforts bore fruit within 2 years, and my plantation flourished. Life in Brazil suited me well. Independence reigned supreme, taxes were minimal, and societal rules remained flexible. Before long, I hired a housekeeper to assist with daily chores, asking my friends for recommendations. One friend suggested his 18-year-old daughter, describing her as diligent and skilled in cooking. True to his word, she proved both friendly and efficient, transforming my home with her care. Each morning, she cleaned tirelessly, prepared meals, and even tended to my beloved cat. Over time, our interactions grew warmer, often sharing breakfast or lunch together. When illness kept her from work for a week, an unfamiliar ache settled in my chest. I missed her presence deeply. It dawned on me then, perhaps I loved her. 2 weeks later, emboldened by these feelings, I visited her father's home and formally requested permission to marry his daughter. After a moment of silence, he granted his blessing, filling me with overwhelming joy. 2 months later, we wed, embarking on a beautiful chapter filled with dreams of expanding our family and plantation. As plans for a larger home unfolded, financial needs arose. Recalling the lucrative trade opportunities in Africa, I discussed the idea with friends, some of whom showed keen interest. Together, we began plotting our next adventure. Chapter 7: The Fury of the Storm. One day, 3 of my neighbors visited our home. They shared their plan to embark on a journey to Africa and asked if I would join them. Without hesitation, I agreed. We began preparing everything necessary for the voyage, ensuring we had ample supplies for trade. Within days, we were ready to depart. Saying goodbye to my wife, I boarded the ship with determination in my heart. Our goal was straightforward: return within 2 months, laden with profits. On September 1st, 1655, we set sail from Brazil aboard a massive vessel. Though spacious, only 17 men crewed the ship, which brimmed with goods for commerce: cups, glassware, mirrors, knives, and various other products. Initially, the weather favored us, though stifling heat tested our resolve. However, 1 week into our journey, disaster struck. A hurricane roared toward us with devastating force. The storm battered our ship relentlessly, threatening its very structure. Once the hurricane passed, we discovered ourselves dangerously close to the northern coast of South America, near the Essequibo River, an unexpected detour. Our ship was severely damaged, rendering our original destination unreachable. The captain suggested returning to Brazil for repairs, but I argued against it. After deliberation, we decided to head for Trinidad instead, hoping to mend the vessel there. Before reaching Trinidad, however, another hurricane descended upon us during the evening. Violent winds whipped the waves into towering heights. Suddenly, someone shouted, "Land!" But the sea floor rose abruptly beneath us, grounding the ship in shallow waters. This precarious situation endangered our already fragile craft, forcing us onto a smaller boat, a perilous decision given its size relative to our numbers. Yet survival left us no choice. The wind and waves conspired against us, driving the tiny craft towards jagged rocks. Just as hope seemed lost, a colossal wave capsized the boat, plunging me into darkness. Underwater, panic gripped me. I could neither see nor locate any of my companions. Miraculously, my head breached the surface momentarily, allowing me to gasp for air. Spotting a narrow strip of beach between the rocks, I prayed for deliverance. Another powerful wave thrust me ashore, where I struggled to stand despite weakened limbs. Repeated attempts eventually secured me 10 meters inland, collapsing from exhaustion. Hours later, I rose to search for survivors, but found none. Only scattered remnants of hats and shoes remained as grim reminders of those who perished. Chapter 8. Castaway. Alone amidst desolation, I mourned the loss of all my friends. The storm's fury lingered, though diminished, leaving turbulent seas behind. From my vantage point on the beach, I observed the wrecked ship drifting far offshore. With nothing but the clothes on my back, and a small knife retrieved from my pocket, I faced an uncertain future. Hunger, thirst, and vulnerability weighed heavily upon me. My first priority was finding fresh water. Thankfully, I stumbled upon a small stream nearby, quenching my thirst before venturing further. Fearing potential predators, I crafted a rudimentary weapon from driftwood. Nightfall approached swiftly, compelling me to seek refuge high within a sturdy tree. Sleep came fitfully, interrupted by thoughts of survival. Morning revealed calmer seas, granting access to the abandoned ship. Stripping naked, I swam tirelessly until reaching its hull. Circling twice, I located a dangling rope, using it to climb aboard. Inside, fortune smiled upon me, Some dry food and a bottle of rum awaited discovery. As I gathered these precious items, a faint noise caught my attention. Heart pounding, I investigated cautiously, only to find a loyal companion, the captain's dog. Relief washed over me. I was no longer utterly alone. Transporting provisions back to shore proved challenging without a boat. Resourceful ingenuity led me to construct a makeshift raft from salvaged timber. Alongside food and drink, I unearthed additional treasures: clothing, tools, a fine carpet, for guns, and dry gunpowder. Loading everything securely onto the raft, I navigated safely to land. With newfound supplies in hand, I scouted for shelter. Ascending a nearby hill offered perspective on my predicament. I stood upon an isolated island surrounded by vast expanses of ocean. Two smaller islands dotted the horizon, one northward, the other westward, while distant mainland loomed approximately 100 kilometers south. To the east stretched endless blue waters devoid of human presence. Wild animals roamed freely across this untamed terrain, presenting both challenges and opportunities. Thus began my solitary existence, armed with resilience, ingenuity, and the steadfast loyalty of a canine companion. Chapter 9: A Haven in the Wilderness. On my way back from the hill, I noticed many birds flitting about, though unfamiliar to me. Unsure if their meat was edible, I tested one, only to find it unpalatable. Returning to the raft, I moved my supplies further inland, determined to retrieve everything useful from the ship before the next storm obliterated it entirely. That evening, I constructed a small tent near the beach, protecting fragile items like food and tools from rain or sun damage. As night fell, I prepared a makeshift bed using spare clothes and surrounded myself with guns for security. Surrounded by weaponry, I felt safer despite the isolation. Exhausted from the day's labor, sleep came swiftly. The following morning, I swam back to the ship, crafting a second raft to transport additional goods. Among these treasures were 7 new guns and several beds, which I safely delivered to the shore. Each subsequent visit to the ship yielded more essentials: tools, candles, 2 large boxes of tea, and even a locked chest. Finding its key beneath, I discovered coins from Europe and Brazil inside. Though money held no value here, I kept it as a memento. Additionally, I found playing cards adorned with illustrations of kings, queens, and other figures, a source of entertainment during lonely hours. One ominous day, dark clouds gathered, signaling an impending storm. Knowing a raft would not survive such conditions, I opted to swim back empty-handed. The winds howled fiercely that night, yet my little tent shielded me from harm. By morning, the ship had vanished, confirming my fears. Realizing I might remain on this island indefinitely, I resolved to create a suitable dwelling. After careful consideration, I chose a site adjacent to a large hill, ensuring proximity to fresh water, shade, and ease of defense. Using the hill as natural protection, I fortified the area with a fence, accessing it via a ladder instead of a door. Within this enclosure, I stored all my belongings and expanded the structure into 2 tents, one larger, housing gunpowder and food, and another smaller one serving as my living quarters. Chapter 10. Marking Time. With the tents complete, I turned my attention to excavating a cave at the base of the hill. Intended for storing food, this project required moving stones and earth toward the fence, creating a terrace inside. While working, a sudden storm struck, accompanied by lightning. Fearing an explosion should lightning strike the gunpowder crates, I acted swiftly once the storm passed. Dividing the contents into smaller containers, I concealed them among the rocks, a task that consumed 3 days. Hunting became both sustenance and recreation, allowing me to explore the island further. During these expeditions, I encountered goats, providing ample meat for sustenance. Yet solitude weighed heavily upon me. Thoughts of my wife, friends in Brazil, and family plagued my mind. Reflecting on the dual nature of seafaring, its promise of adventure countered by its capacity for devastation, I acknowledged my fortune in surviving while others perished. Grateful for the resources salvaged from the ship, I erected a large wooden cross near the beach, marking the date of my arrival, September 30th, 1659. This cross served as my calendar, with daily notches carved into its surface. Longer marks denoted Sundays and the start of each month, helping me track time amidst isolation. Periods of negativity occasionally clouded my thoughts. To combat despair, I compiled a list contrasting the positives and negatives of my situation. On the negative side stood loneliness, minimal chances of returning home, and limited communication. Positives included survival, safety, freedom, sufficient food, and companionship from the dog, who responded to commands like sit, come here, and let's eat. This exercise reinforced my resolve to focus on the brighter aspects of life. Determined to improve my surroundings, I expanded the cave, enhancing storage and organization. Each improvement brought renewed purpose, transforming adversity into opportunity. Chapter 11. Chronicles of Solitude. With my basic needs secured, I turned my attention to improving my living conditions. Crafting furniture became my next project, a chair and table fashioned from the wood of my rafts and remnants of the ship. It took 5 days of meticulous work, but the result was rewarding. Next, I constructed shelves within the cave, organizing my tools, clothes, and guns with precision. Mounting the firearms on the walls added both functionality and security. Satisfaction washed over me as I surveyed my handiwork. Everything was now well organized, making daily tasks more efficient. Inspired by this newfound order, I decided to document my life on the island in a book. Writing provided an outlet for reflection and clarity. Beginning with my first day ashore, I meticulously recorded each event, thought, and emotion. Initially, I penned 1 page daily, capturing every detail. As time progressed and events grew less frequent, I transitioned to writing weekly summaries, focusing solely on significant occurrences. This practice proved therapeutic, allowing me to process my experiences and maintain perspective. Despite the monotony of island life, boredom never truly set in. My routine evolved into a predictable yet fulfilling rhythm. Long morning walks, followed by hours of labor until noon. After lunch, I rested for 2 hours before resuming work into the evening. Using the tools at my disposal, I expanded the cave, transforming it into a multifunctional space: kitchen, living room, storage area, and occasional bedroom all rolled into one. One day, disaster struck when a section of the cave ceiling collapsed, sending earth cascading down. Fortunately, I had been outside at the time. Recognizing the danger, I immediately reinforced the structure with wooden boards along the sides and ceiling, ensuring such accidents wouldn't recur. This painstaking task consumed nearly a week but solidified the integrity of my sanctuary. In December, heavy rains persisted for 20 consecutive days, confining me indoors. Though warm weather mitigated discomfort, I continued working diligently. At month's end, while hunting, I encountered 2 goats, one of which sustained a broken leg. Compassion compelled me to bring the injured creature home. Over 2 weeks, the goat grew accustomed to my presence, eventually eating from my hand. This experience sparked an idea. Domesticating animals could ensure a steady food supply once my gunpowder dwindled. In January, armed with renewed purpose, I ventured deeper into the island's interior, discovering additional herds near its center. The elusive nature of these creatures presented challenges, but determination fueled my resolve. Returning with my loyal dog, we devised a strategy. Positioning him strategically, I instructed, "Sit down, wait, don't move." Then, circling the herd at a safe distance, I prepared to seize an opportunity to capture and tame these wild beasts. Chapter 12: Harvest of Hope. When the goats were positioned between my dog and me, I concealed myself behind a sturdy tree. With a sudden shout, I signaled for my dog to charge, causing panic among the herd. Remaining hidden, I awaited the perfect moment. As one goat drew near, I leapt from cover, grabbing its leg. However, the struggle ended abruptly when the goat's other hoof struck my nose with surprising force. The pain was intense, and the animal quickly escaped. Our attempt had failed, proving this method ineffective. Dejected but determined, I instructed my dog, "Let's go home. I need some rest." From January through March, I dedicated myself to fortifying the fence surrounding my camp, ensuring it stood strong against potential threats. During this time, I discovered pigeons nesting not in trees but within rocky crevices, an unexpected boon. These birds proved easy to catch, providing both delicious meat and nutritious eggs to supplement my diet. While reinforcing the fence, I stumbled upon an old bag containing remnants of corn. Though reduced to leaves and dust, I emptied it outside my camp, intending to repurpose the sack for storing gunpowder. A month later, during the rainy season, something miraculous occurred. Green shoots emerged where I had discarded the contents. Young corn plants flourished in that spot. Words cannot convey the joy and relief I felt at this discovery. Corn meant the possibility of baking bread, a small yet profound improvement to my solitary existence. On March 16th, disaster struck without warning. Inside my cave, I heard ominous rumblings as chunks of earth tumbled from the ceiling. Fearing for my safety, I bolted outside just as the ground began to tremble violently. An earthquake. Panic gripped me as massive boulders crashed down the hillside, narrowly missing my tent. Though shaken, I emerged unscathed. Yet the experience left me wary of sleeping in the cave, which now seemed perilous. Reluctant to retreat to the tent, I resolved to construct a proper house instead. Construction commenced in April and spanned 3 months, culminating in a modest but sturdy structure. My new home brought immense satisfaction, relegating the cave to storage purposes alone. In late July, however, misfortune befell me once more. Struck by illness, I lay bedridden, feverish and weak. Days blurred together as delirious dreams consumed my thoughts. These visions, though illogical, felt vividly real, transporting me far from the confines of my island prison. Chapter 13. Visions of Home. One of my dreams was particularly vivid and surreal. In it, I found myself in a pub located on my island. Craving a drink, I called out for some rum, but the waitress appeared disinterested, lounging at the bar without attending to me. Her laziness irritated me, yet I waited patiently. Suddenly, my wife entered the pub, handing me a note bearing a message from her father. He urged me to return home and resume work on the plantations. However, I resisted. My heart remained tethered to this solitary existence. Venturing into the kitchen, I encountered my mother, who was busy preparing steaks and simmering soup. Sampling the latter, I marveled at its exquisite flavor. Just then, 2 Englishmen entered the pub, attempting to sell gunpowder. One man exuded refinement, while the other radiated menace. Politely declining their offer, I informed them that I already possessed ample supplies. The second man bristled with anger, insisting their product was superior and demanding I purchase it. His hostility escalated into threats, culminating in an exchange of insults. When he drew his weapon, I fled, only to awaken moments later, shaken but relieved. For nearly a week afterward, I recuperated, still feeling fragile. By August, though slightly weakened, I regained enough strength to resume physical activity. Over the next 10 days, I traversed the island, reinvigorating my body and spirit. During these explorations, I stumbled upon a breathtaking valley nestled in the island's center. A tranquil lake shimmered amidst lush vegetation, yielding melons, grapes, apples, oranges, and lemons. Their sweetness delighted my palate, sparking thoughts of relocating there. Eager to gather fruit, I returned to my cave for a suitable container. Upon my return to the valley, However, I discovered the harvest ravaged by wild animals. Despite this setback, the valley's beauty captivated me further, fueling aspirations to build a secondary residence nearby. Chapter 14: A Second Refuge. Though reluctant to abandon my beachfront home, I committed to constructing another dwelling within the fruit-laden valley. Frequent visits allowed progress toward this goal. The new house, compact yet secure, featured a double fence reinforced like a fortress. Accessible via both internal stairs and an external ladder, it offered practicality and protection. Throughout late August and early September, this endeavor invigorated me, drawing vitality from the fertile surroundings. Nights spent gazing at the moon and stars evoked poignant reflections on loved ones far away. Imagining their shared view of celestial bodies bridged distances, fostering a sense of connection across vast oceans. Contemplating God, I wrestled with profound questions. Why had I survived when others perished? What purpose lay behind my isolation? Though answers eluded me, faith sustained trust in divine intent. As the rainy season unfolded until mid-October, concluding my first year on the island, greenery enveloped my valley home. This natural camouflage not only enhanced aesthetics but provided shade and concealment. Inspired, I replicated the design around my primary residence, harmonizing structure with environment. Following the rains, I planted corn seeds strategically, learning through trial and error to align agricultural efforts with the island's unique seasonal patterns. Two distinct wet and dry cycles replacing traditional temperate seasons. With perseverance, I cultivated a modest farm, transforming adversity into opportunity. Armed with newfound knowledge, I embraced life on the island as both challenge and gift, ever hopeful for redemption or reunion. Chapter 15: Crafting and Exploring. I began venturing farther across the island, recognizing the need for a basket to carry more supplies during these excursions. With a basket, I could transport additional food and fruit from the fertile valley near my secondary home. Using branches from the same trees that supplied material for my fences, I fashioned a durable basket after drying them thoroughly. Once completed, I embarked on an extended journey around the island, eager to explore uncharted territory. Passing through the valley where my second house stood, I entered vast grasslands dotted with vibrant flowers. Their sweet fragrance filled the air, attracting countless insects and butterflies with wings spanning 10 centimeters. Small trees surrounded these fields, bearing nuts unlike any I'd encountered in England, distinctive in shape and sweeter in taste. This region teemed with wildlife, including parrots, rabbits, and peculiar gray-furred felines. Intrigued, I captured a parrot adorned in a kaleidoscope of colors: red, green, purple, orange, blue, pink, and yellow, and decided to bring it back with me. On our return, my dog surprised me by catching a young goat. Moved by compassion, I spared its life, resolving to domesticate it alongside other animals. Leaving the goat temporarily at my valley home, I prepared accommodations for it at my primary residence. Exhausted from the day's adventures, I spent the following day resting before constructing a cage for the parrot and integrating the goat into my routine. To better understand my surroundings, I drew a detailed map of the island, marking newly discovered locations. Time passed swiftly, ushering in my second year on the island. Acceptance replaced despair as I embraced my circumstances, finding contentment in what I possessed. My days followed a predictable yet satisfying rhythm. Hunting in the morning, cooking midday, relaxing under the scorching sun in the afternoon, and laboring into the evening. Teaching the parrot to mimic its name, Pole, became a cherished pastime. As autumn approached, my cornfields demanded constant attention. Wild goats and rabbits threatened the tender sprouts, prompting me to erect a fence with a quick-release gate. Positioning my vigilant dog inside ensured protection against nocturnal intrusions. By November and December, the plants flourished, only to face a new menace, birds feasting on the seeds. Armed with determination, I eliminated several pests and maintained vigilance until the threat subsided. This cycle of challenges and triumphs defined my existence, transforming adversity into resilience and solitude into self-sufficiency. Chapter 16. The Art of Creation. At the end of December, I harvested my first batch of corn, a modest yield that I chose not to consume. Instead, I carefully preserved all the seeds, intent on planting them again to produce a larger crop in the future. Realizing I would need pots for this endeavor, I began searching for clay along the island's shores. People in England crafted exquisite pottery, but their techniques were unfamiliar to me. Initially, my attempts at shaping and firing clay resulted only in failure. Undeterred, I persisted, experimenting tirelessly over 2 months until success finally rewarded my efforts. 2 large pots emerged from my labor, sturdy enough to serve their purpose. To protect them during transport, I nested each pot inside a round basket lined with dry grass, a simple yet effective solution. Gradually, my skills improved, allowing me to create smaller, finer pots as well as elongated vessels for boiling seawater. Through evaporation, these pots yielded precious salt, enhancing both my diet and preservation capabilities. One day, while tending to the fire, I discovered a fragment of hardened, reddened clay among the embers. This revelation sparked an idea. Heat transformed soft clay into durable stoneware. Encouraged, I placed another pot directly within the flames. After several hours, it emerged firm and resilient, marking a significant milestone in my self-sufficiency journey. Next, I tackled the challenge of milling flour. Using a block of hardwood, I carved out a shallow depression, employing a second piece of wood to crush the corn kernels within. The resulting powder settled neatly at the bottom, forming coarse flour. With baking now within reach, I devised a rudimentary method. Mixing the flour with water, I flattened the dough and placed it between 2 heated stones positioned near the fire. Thus, my first loaf of bread was born, a far cry from perfection but cherished nonetheless. It marked 3 years since my arrival on the island, reigniting hope and creativity. Inspired by this achievement, I envisioned circumnavigating the island by sea. A canoe seemed feasible, so I selected a massive tree and began hollowing it out. Days turned into weeks as I meticulously shaped the vessel. However, upon completion, a sobering reality struck me. I had no means of transporting the heavy craft from the forest to the beach. Hills obstructed any direct path, rendering channels impractical despite my best efforts. Defeated, I abandoned the canoe, lamenting the wasted effort. Yet, this setback taught me a valuable lesson. Thorough planning must precede execution. Chapter 17. The Second Canoe. During my 4th year on the island, my clothing had deteriorated significantly. To adapt, I began crafting garments from animal hides, fashioning a cap and other essentials. These new clothes provided excellent protection against both the scorching sun and torrential rains but lacked versatility. Determined to improve my quality of life, I constructed an umbrella, a challenging endeavor that ultimately succeeded after much effort. Contentment settled over me as I embraced my solitary existence. Over the next 5 years, I focused on refining various skills, including pottery and tool-making. With renewed ambition, I decided to build a second canoe, this time smaller and more manageable than its predecessor. Once completed, I stocked it with food, water, and tools, eager to circumnavigate the island. On June 6th of my 6th year, I embarked on this ambitious journey. The initial stages proved treacherous. Navigating around jagged rocks near the shore tested my resolve, while a powerful current threatened to sweep me far out to sea. For 2 harrowing hours, I battled the relentless tide before finally regaining proximity to the island. This triumph bolstered my confidence, allowing me to continue exploring. Venturing up a narrow river led me deep into unfamiliar territory, though progress halted when stones obstructed the path. Exhausted, I disembarked and stumbled upon familiar landmarks, eventually finding my way back to the valley home. Awakened by the sound of my parrot, Pole, calling my name, I marveled at his mimicry. Though startled initially, I welcomed the unexpected company, returning home with renewed appreciation for my modest menagerie. Despite this adventure, I refrained from further trips for nearly a year, focusing instead on honing my craftwork. Chapter 18. A Growing Herd. 11 years had passed since my arrival, and dwindling gunpowder supplies loomed large in my mind. My aging goat, now too frail to breed, succumbed naturally, leaving me bereft. Recognizing the need for alternative sustenance methods, I devised traps to capture young goats. After several failed attempts, success arrived in the form of 3 lively additions, 1 male and 2 females. Expanding their enclosure required 3 months of labor, yielding a lush grazing area complete with ample grass and water. Within 2 years, the herd grew to 12. By 3 years, it exceeded 20. Milk and meat transformed my table, enabling experiments with cheese and butter production. Surrounded by animals, the loyal pole, curious goats, and my steadfast dog, I thrived materially yet yearned for human connection. One day, strolling along the coastline, I paused to reflect on my altered appearance. Clad in makeshift attire fashioned from animal skins, adorned with belts for weaponry, and shielding myself with an umbrella, I embodied a rugged survivor. Yet, this realization underscored my isolation. As I inspected my canoe, a startling discovery awaited, a distinct footprint imprinted in the sand. Fear gripped me, compelling a hasty retreat to safety. Chapter 19: Shadows of Danger. Upon revisiting the mysterious mark, I confirmed it was far larger than my own, an unsettling truth. Panic surged anew, prompting drastic measures. I raised crops near my valley home, concealing signs of habitation, and fortified defenses around my primary residence. Additional fences bristled with strategically placed firing holes, ensuring preparedness against potential threats. Concerns extended to my goats, whom I divided into two groups housed separately across the island. Months passed uneventfully until tragedy struck in my 16th year, the death of my faithful dog. Grief-stricken, I confided in the goats, finding solace in their quiet companionship. 2 years later, another chilling encounter unfolded. While walking the beach, I noticed remnants of a grisly feast, human body parts scattered amidst evidence of a recent fire. Revulsion overwhelmed me, reinforcing cautionary instincts. Though tempted to ambush these visitors, prudence prevailed. Unfamiliar customs and motives cautioned restraint, leading me to abandon aggressive plans. Instead, I vowed to act solely if directly provoked, prioritizing survival above vengeance. This delicate balance defined my evolving relationship with the enigmatic newcomers. Chapter 20: The Hidden Refuge. In an effort to conceal my presence on the island, I adopted extreme caution. Fires became a necessary yet risky endeavor, so I minimized smoke output by carefully selecting dry wood and sheltering flames beneath natural cover. One day, while exploring near the beach, I stumbled upon a small cave nestled deep within the forest. Intrigued, I ventured inside, but froze when two glowing eyes locked onto mine in the darkness. Terrified, I bolted outside, waiting anxiously for any sign of movement. After ensuring safety, I cautiously returned to the cave's entrance, straining to listen. A faint noise echoed from within, something akin to labored breathing or pain. Gripping my gun tightly, I stepped back inside, adjusting to the dim light. To my relief, the source was not a predator but an old goat nearing its end. By the next day, the goat had passed, leaving behind a secluded sanctuary. Recognizing its potential, I relocated some firearms and gunpowder there, creating a hidden cache close to the shoreline. 23 years had elapsed since my arrival, and life had grown comfortable. My parrots, including Pole, repeated phrases with remarkable clarity, entertaining me endlessly. Over 30 goats grazed peacefully under my care, providing abundant milk, meat, and companionship. As the final month of this milestone year approached, routine took me to my fields one morning when a shocking sight greeted me. Fire burning brightly on the beach. Armed with every weapon at my disposal, I retreated to safety and retrieved my telescope. From a concealed vantage point, I observed 9 figures gathered around the flames, naked and adorned with body paint. 2 canoes rested nearby, confirming their identity as cannibals. Once they departed, I ventured closer, only to confront another grim scene of blood and bones scattered across the sand. Fury welled within me, solidifying resolve to exact vengeance should they return. One evening after a violent storm, however, circumstances shifted unexpectedly. A distant gunshot resonated over the water, followed by the glow of light flickering at sea. Another shot confirmed distress signals emanating from what appeared to be a ship in peril. Rushing to the beach, I constructed a massive bonfire, hoping it would guide survivors ashore. Though no immediate response materialized, anticipation lingered throughout the night. Chapter 21. Unexpected Allies. Dawn revealed the remnants of a Spanish vessel stranded far offshore. Its conditions suggested abandonment, raising countless questions about its crew's fate. Desperate for answers and human contact, I launched my canoe toward the wreckage. Upon boarding, I encountered a starving dog who greeted me eagerly, devouring offered bread and water with gratitude. Searching further yielded both valuable supplies and unsettling mysteries. Guns, gunpowder, clothing, precious metals, and crates brimming with alcohol too heavy to transport. Over multiple trips, I salvaged everything useful, prioritizing items critical to survival. Among these treasures were 2 pairs of shoes, a luxury long missed, and additional gunpowder that bolstered my defenses. Storing all newfound riches securely in the cave, I resumed normal routines, though thoughts of the vanished sailors and recurring cannibal visits haunted me nightly. A vivid dream one March night transformed into determination. In it, a prisoner escaped his captors, seeking refuge in my home. Together, we navigated treacherous waters, forging friendship and escape plans. Inspired, I resolved to monitor the beach more vigilantly, hoping to intercept future visitors. For 2 years, patience endured until one fateful afternoon when 5 canoes carrying over 30 men arrived ashore. Through my telescope, I witnessed their rituals unfold, dancing, feasting, and brutal sacrifices. Among the bound prisoners, one man awaited execution while another remained set aside. Seizing opportunity amidst chaos, the second captive broke free, sprinting desperately toward my hiding spot. Pursued by 2 swift adversaries, his survival hung precariously in balance. This moment marked destiny's call. An alliance forged through courage and timing would soon alter our fates forever. Chapter 22. A New Ally. I prepared 2 guns and waited patiently behind the tree, heart pounding as the drama unfolded before me. The prisoner sprinted directly toward my hiding spot but failed to notice me. I remained motionless until he darted past. Moments later, the first cannibal approached, unaware of my presence. Seizing the moment, I leapt from cover, startling him mid-stride. A single shot echoed through the air, felling him instantly. The second pursuer reacted swiftly, knocking an arrow and aiming in my direction. Without hesitation, I fired again, neutralizing the threat. The sudden gunfire halted the prisoner's flight. Turning back, he saw me standing over the fallen cannibals, gun still smoking. Fear flickered across his face, but my smile reassured him. Gesturing for him to approach, I signaled safety. Dropping to his knees, he placed my foot atop his head, a gesture of submission and gratitude. Standing once more, he examined the lifeless forms of his captors, clearly bewildered by their demise. Together, we retrieved their weapons and concealed the bodies deep within the forest before retreating further inland. Guiding the stranger to my hidden cave, I offered food and water. Exhaustion claimed him almost immediately, leaving me time to observe this unexpected companion. Young, lean yet muscular, with long black hair and dark skin, he possessed a strikingly pleasant countenance. Estimating his age at around 25, I resolved to protect him as night fell. Positioning myself outside the cave, I kept vigilant watch, but the remaining cannibals did not pursue us. 3 hours later, the man emerged, radiating joy at his newfound freedom. Eager to communicate, I introduced myself and bestowed upon him the name Friday, marking the day of his salvation. Teaching him basic words like yes and no, we spent the night nestled securely within our sanctuary. By dawn, Friday and I ascended the hill, confirming through my telescope that the canoes had vanished. Descending cautiously to the beach, we revisited the site where the cannibal remains were hidden. To my dismay, Friday expressed interest in consuming them, an unsettling reminder of his origins. Firmly conveying disapproval, I insisted on burying the corpses instead. Further exploration revealed a grisly tableau, human bones scattered amidst blood-soaked sand. Determined to cleanse the area, I instructed Friday to gather the remnants while I kindled a roaring fire. As the remains burned, we returned to my home, where I erected a small tent for Friday between the double fences surrounding my property. Initially wary, I confiscated his weapons, prioritizing caution over trust. However, Friday's genuine kindness soon dispelled my doubts. Like a son to a father, he proved loyal and eager to learn, willing even to sacrifice himself for my well-being. Over time, I dedicated myself to educating Friday about European customs and language. Beginning with simple phrases, hi, hello, bye, thank you, our lessons progressed steadily, fueled by mutual patience and goodwill. For the first time in decades, I experienced the profound joy of meaningful conversation, transforming solitude into companionship.